Welcome to a February afternoon instead of a morning to our Backyard Brothers podcast. We're here a little bit later in the day due to some sickness in my family and a sleeping baby that hopefully remains sleeping for the foreseeable hour. But we didn't meet last week. I was on vacation, but I did watch the Super Bowl on a cruise. And it was a different experience. I'll tell you that. We'll go into that in a second. But first thing we're going to talk about is recapping the Super Bowl that happened almost 2 weeks ago. Wait, no, last week, almost 1 week ago. Um, and uh, and looking at how we did. Um, just a little bit about that game. The Eagles were in control for the entire first half. They were really, really good in that first half. And Jalen Hurts, I think if only one player in the history of the NFL, in the history of the Super Bowl, I should say, has been named most valuable player on a losing team. If anyone sent, I thought Jalen Hurts could have won the Super Bowl MVP on the losing team. He was that good in that game. Obviously, he had a huge mistake near the end of the first half where he dropped the ball and the Chiefs returned it for a touchdown. A big time turnover that obviously with the end score in mind of 3 points, every play is a big play when you come down to a 3 point game. But Eagles dominated that first half, and then you can always count on Andy Reid and the Chiefs adjusting and doing a lot of good things to come back in that second half. They scored 3 touchdowns on 3 straight drives and took control of the game and held on for the win. Um, my a couple of my big takeaways. Like I said, I thought Jalen Hurts was fantastic and could have won the MVP award, but Patrick Mahomes was equally as impressive, and deserved the MVP that went his way. Obviously, that last holding call that gave the Chiefs a pretty easy field goal to win the game. Yes, it was a hold. Even James Bradbury came out and said, "Yeah, it was a hold. I held him, and I hope the refs wouldn't call it." I think in that situation, you kind of got to let the guys play. It wasn't a really horrible hold. It was a clear hold, but it wasn't a really bad one. And so, in a game that comes down to the last minute or so, I think you got to let the guys play. And that was a tough call to really end the game and kind of end it in the officials' hands rather than the players' hands was kind of tough to see. So that's my thoughts. I think Cody was next in the rotation, right? So
Yeah, I was, and my camera's not on. My video is giving me a hard time, so
yeah,
I'll remain
that's
off.
fine.
So forgive me on that. Anyway, yeah, I agree with most of that. It was first and foremost, it was a fun game to watch. It was a great game. Both teams, as you could tell, clearly deserved to be there, and they played like two Super Bowl teams. Um, I also agree that had a losing team member won, it could have been Jalen Hurts. I don't think that Patrick Mahomes should have won. I think it should have been his offensive line. And the reason why is because they're playing against the team leading, and so it's the I think it's the sack leading team in the nation, and they were, I mean, Cox and Reddick and Graham. That's just a scary line, and they didn't allow one sack. That was really impressive in my opinion, and that's why Patrick Mahomes was able to play as good as he did. So, in my opinion, the Chiefs' offensive line deserves the MVP. I don't think you can give five people the MVP award, so that's why they give it to Mahomes. But that's what I think should have happened in terms of that. Um, and then with the penalty at the end, I agree. I think that had I been a ref in that situation, obviously you don't want to just if someone does a big blatant penalty, you got to call it, obviously, because that can determine the game too. And so I feel like if I was a ref there, I wouldn't call a penalty unless it was blatant. And I understand that it was a hold. He admitted it and all that, but I don't think it was one that really impacted that play. I think it was a throwaway ball anyway. I don't think it would have been caught anyway. And so I don't think they should have called it. But it was a hold. I just don't think it should have been called by the refs. um, Really good game. I was disappointed the Chiefs won. I'm kind of on the underdog side now, where I'm kind of rooting against whoever's been to the Super Bowl for a few times now. So, but it was a fun game, um, and sad for Jason Kelsey that he couldn't get that last Super Bowl win. I think he's retiring now. So, anyway,
So my take on that, you two are Eagles fans, and I'm a Chiefs fan. I've been a Chiefs fan, I think, since watching Priest Holmes lead the Chiefs to a 13-0, and I think it was like 2003, 2004, something like that. I've always liked them, and so I'm a Chiefs fan. You're Eagles fans, and so you talk about the holding call, and you're saying I don't think it should have been called, and here I am saying players should be held accountable to the rules regardless of the situation. You can't bend the rules. That's why they're rules. And so if everybody admits that yes, it was a hold, if it's not called, then it's unfair. Whereas it being called is fair. And so that's how I see it, is it has to be fair. You see the same argument all the time in basketball of, oh, you shouldn't call fouls in the last minute because everybody's so intense. I'm like, well, a foul's a foul. The game has to be called fairly. And so I agree that the hold should have been called, not just because I'm a Chiefs fan, but because the rules need to always be the rules. You can't bend them for special circumstances. Otherwise, it's not a rule. It's a suggestion.
Are you still?
But then,
Oh, sorry.
go ahead. We can discuss that a little bit more, and then I have more to talk about the game.
Sure. My thought on that is, so I mean, the Chiefs were the beneficiaries of um, two calls in back-to-back games, right? The AFC Championship game where it was a blatant out of bounds push by the Bengals player that no one argued against that call. It was blatantly out of bounds when he pushed him. Uh, there was a little bit of a different vibe here, and it's not, in my opinion, it's not necessarily the whether or not a foul is a foul. I think everyone admits it was a hold. It's just the idea of the officials deciding the game rather than the players that makes it really difficult to stomach, as whether I'm a fan of the Eagles in this game or just a fan I mean, if the 49ers were playing in the Super Bowl and that happened against my team, I might be a little bit more towards your side on this, and I'll freely admit that. But it's just the idea that I don't like the officials having a hand in the outcome of a game. So
yeah,
See, and that's where I think I approach it and see it differently, is because I don't believe the officials determined that. The player broke a rule. He held. Therefore, he was the one that determined the penalty being called. If he did not hold, the penalty would not have been called. It was not an official issue, other than the fact that the officials have eyes, and that's their job, is to see it. It was Bradbury who held and broke the rules and was therefore penalized. It was not the official's call. It was Bradbury's call.
I appreciate that.
So I'll add one thing to that too, though, and I'll point out I understand your side for sure, Dustin. That makes sense, saying like that. However, we know that there is an exception to that rule. When the ball is uncatchable, they don't call that. And I think in this scenario, he wasn't going to catch the ball. It was too far. It was uncatchable. He wasn't going to catch it. So
Well, holding doesn't apply to uncatchable. Holding
I was about
only
to
applies
say
to
that,
anything.
Cody. Yeah.
That would be pass interference. Only applies there.
Yeah.
Okay, I don't think I realized that.
But anyway, getting back into my analysis of the game, I think this was a good tangent, good to discuss. When we discussed previewing this, 2 weeks ago, I think what I said and several of us said is, if the Eagles can get the running game going, they're going to win. If the Chiefs can have big plays, they're going to win. And the Eagles did a fantastic job running the ball. Jalen Hurts most of all. I don't know how many, but there's probably 3, 4, maybe even 5 times, 4th and 1 every single time, 5 for 5 on that. And then, of course, was it 3 rushing touchdowns by Jalen Hurts? Incredible. Yeah. Ran the ball very well. then the Chiefs' big plays, surprisingly enough, did not come from the offense. Fumble return for a touchdown and a punt return down to the goal line. Those were the plays that won the game for the Chiefs, was the big plays, which is exactly what we all said is if Chiefs can have big plays, they win the game. And they had two major defensive or special teams plays that put them in the position to win the game. And that's why they won, was those big plays swung the game for them.
Yeah. I like that analysis, and I think it's true. I think it worked out completely in that way. So if both teams end up doing what we said they would do to win the game, you end up with a really good close game, high scoring game. So, and that's what you want to see in a Super Bowl. So you don't want to see a 13-3 Patriots over the Rams a couple of years ago. No one wants to see it.
Yeah.
So, all right.
Well,
Well, we are moving on to a memory from Cody. So take us through it, Cody.
yeah, we're actually switching gears quite significantly here. We're going into a sport we haven't even thought about touching. So I wanted to touch a little bit on the Mayweather and McGregor fight from 2017. I remember when everyone was talking about how this was going to happen. I think they were talking about it 6 months or even to like a year in advance, something like that, something crazy. And this fight was being called like the money fight or the biggest fight in combat sports history, and I think it still is known that as today. I may be incorrect there, but I believe it is. And that's a fight between Floyd Mayweather Jr. and Conor McGregor. Mayweather, a professional boxer, and McGregor, a professional UFC fighter. And they Mayweather, the biggest point to make here is he had already retired. He retired. He was 49-0 as a boxer, so he had retired undefeated. But it's kind of said, because McGregor was kind of entertaining the idea, like what if I was to fight Mayweather in his sport in boxing, how would that go? And Mayweather said, "I'll come out of retirement to do that. Let's do it." And so that's kind of how it led up to it, and this drew millions upon millions, hundreds of millions of viewers all across the world. And because fighting obviously isn't just a sport to one nation. So it was a lot of views, and it was a lot of money on the line too for whoever was going to win. And they agreed on a 12-round fight. And watching the highlights of it, seeing it, McGregor, you could tell he was kind of owning the fight for the first, I'd say half, until 5 or 6, round 5 or round 6. He was kind of owning it, and I was thinking like he's gonna give him his first defeat. And but Mayweather, being fighting in his sport, was able to kind of rally and just wore out McGregor, and you could see that he was just tired. By round 8, 9, and then 10, he got a TKO, technical knockout on McGregor, and was able to win. It was really fun. I'm not a huge watcher of fighting sports. I like seeing it every now and then and stuff, but this fight was definitely a lot of fun to watch and kind of think about what was going to happen. So I remember, I think Mayweather walked away with over $250 million or something like that as a winner, and McGregor got 130 million just as losing. 280, okay. 280 million as the winner. McGregor got, I think it was 130 million as a loser. So he got more than NFL contracts to a certain extent in one fight. So what are you guys' thoughts on that fight?
Yeah, so playing off of that, first talking about the money, 280 million for about 30 minutes of work. So to put that in comparison, the largest contract, at least per year, is, if Google's right, Deshaun Watson signed a 234-year deal. That's 57 million a year. And Floyd Mayweather won 280 million in 30 minutes. It's the amount of money that boxers get paid is nowhere compares to the amount of money of any other sport. It is the most ludicrous cash cow sports that there is, and it's amazing. And Mayweather's career earnings are $1.1 billion for 50 fights. 50 fights, $1.1 billion. It's amazing. But then talking about the fight, I absolutely agree. McGregor did incredible. And to think that he came from UFC and he has to come into this arena and say, okay, now you're only allowed to use 20% of your skill set because he's mixed martial arts. He's a kickboxer. He usually can wrestle and grapple and kick and use elbows. All he can do is fists at this point. Use 20% of your skill set, and he absolutely went toe to toe with the best boxer in the world for Cody, like you said, 6, 7, 8 rounds. But then Mayweather, he's never been a knockout boxer. He's never been a knockout. He's always been I'm going to wear you down. I'm going to be faster. I'm going to move around. I'm going to get in close. I'm going to do body punches and all this stuff and wear you out. And that was his strategy the whole time, and took him 10 rounds until he wore him out. And I think that the fight was called too early. I think that if it may have still ended in the 10th round, but a few more hits probably would have knocked McGregor down and officially ended the TKO with probably still would have been a TKO, but I'd like to see it go another minute longer, maybe even another round longer. But yeah, this was fun. Obviously, I didn't watch it live because I like money, but I watched it on YouTube a few hours later.
Yeah. I don't have a whole lot new to add because I agree with both of you on all of that. But it just seemed like Conor McGregor, this young guy challenging the 40-year-old Mayweather, and he had a whole lot of energy obviously at the beginning, and he was doing really well, but you just marvel at a 40-year-old man's stamina and endurance to just outlast this younger guy that's more than a decade younger than him. Just not only outlasting him, but taking some brutal punches there at the beginning, and then just wearing him down and knocking him out, technical knockout. And I thought that was really amazing to see. And you look at, someone not familiar with boxing very much, like me, you have the three names that I really think about in terms of boxing. You have Muhammad Ali and Mike Tyson and Floyd Mayweather, right? Those are the three that you really think about. Mike Tyson and Muhammad Ali, I looked this up before we jumped on, both had 6 losses in their career. Mayweather never lost once. So can you, I mean, you talk about Muhammad Ali as maybe the best boxer of all time, but does Mayweather have that title just because he never lost a fight ever? And so we can talk about that at another time maybe, but I think he certainly has a case to be made for the best to ever do it.
Yeah, I like that. Just to round that out real quick. My thought is, yeah, as you said, Dustin, this is the UFC fighter coming in saying, yeah, this is boxing now, you can only punch. And so how long he was able to last, it's obvious that had it been the other way around, Mayweather went into the UFC, mode to fight McGregor, he'd be out round 1. I think maybe 2, I don't know. But and so it's just really, really fun to watch and interesting to think about. And I like what you said too, Scott, that this is a 40-year-old man who, I mean, he still had it. He still had it. So it was fun to watch.
All right, shifting gears again, Dustin.
Yeah, let's briefly talk about the NBA. In the NBA, every February, there's usually a lot of trades, right? NBA is much more trade heavy than perhaps any other sport. And there's some big ones that have happened. Most notably is the trade with the Suns and the Nets. Kevin Durant now becoming a member of the Suns. TJ Warren came along as well, but then reading through this, it's amazing how many players and how much asset from an owner's perspective was included, where the Nets received Mikal Bridges and Cam Johnson, Juan Vallette, 2023, 2025, and 2027 first round picks, 2028 first round pick, 2028 second round pick, 2029 first and second round picks. Then the Bucks receive Jay Crowder and the Pacers receive George Hill, Serge Ibaka, Jordan Nwora, and 3 future second round picks, and then also a little bit of cash on the side. This is just a huge amount of pieces moving around. But it's something interesting that the NBA teams try to do is say, okay, in order to win a championship, I gotta move things around and shift half my organization and give up, my next 5 years worth of first round picks in order to try to get one championship this year. And we see it happen. We've seen it happen the last 40 years in the NBA, where I'm going to trade my entire future for what is a short-term possibility. There's some other big ones that have gone along. Most notably is, let's see, the Rockets and the Clippers had a trade, Eric Gordon for John Wall and Danny Green, and then also the Lakers and Jazz had their trade. Find the official thing here.
It was
with
the Timberwolves.
Thomas Bryant. Yeah, Timberwolves. Thank you. Thomas Bryant, Mo Bamba, Devon Reed,
That's not the
Bones
one we're
Highland.
talking about, is it?
Oh, sorry. Yeah. Sorry. Reading the wrong thing here. D'Angelo Russell to the Lakers, Malik Beasley, and Jared Vanderbilt. Then Timberwolves got Mike Conley and Nickeil Alexander-Walker, and the Jazz received Juan Toscano Anderson and Damian Jones and a first-round pick. They also received Russell Westbrook, who has agreed to a buyout and is most likely going to sign with a different team.
Yeah. Anything else, Dustin, before I jumped in? Did I cut you off?
That's a slight recap of that. And like I already said, just the NBA owners playbook is trade the entire future away for a chance of 1 year to get that. And that's something that we could debate. What's the worth of one championship for the next 5, 6, 7 years of missing the playoffs? Is that worth it? So a lot of owners think so. Danny Ainge would agree.
Oh, excuse me. Yeah, Dustin, I like what you said in the text maybe a couple of weeks ago, even, or a week and a half ago or so, about this, and kind of something I may want to write up a little bit and use some of your words in our website there, but just about the idea that players are not seen as really people or players from the NBA, but they're assets. And you've said, and I've seen it happen where a guy is going to warm up and, hey, you're not playing for us anymore, and you have to go. You have to leave the arena because you're no longer part of our team, and it's so strange to see that. I mean, it happens in baseball too. MLB is like that as well, in that way. NFL is not quite to that level, although I mean, there's a lot of big trades every now and then. But there's two that I wanted to mention beyond that, and that's the Nets trading Kyrie Irving to the Mavericks. Was a big one as well. It looks like the Mavericks are going to be okay with Kyrie and Luka playing on the same team, and that should be fun. I will forever hold on the idea that I don't like Kyrie as a teammate unless he changes. I hope he doesn't drag down the Mavericks, because I think they're an exciting team to watch, and I would cheer for them come playoff time, and minus Kyrie's presence. But that was a big one. The other one that I thought it's a really under the radar trade, because it doesn't mean anything, but it's the Warriors giving up on James Wiseman completely. And trading him away. I was thinking about that because I mean, he was supposed to be this generational talent, the Zion Williamson type of guy that went to Memphis and played one game, I think, right, and then decided, I'm not playing anymore.
Yeah,
and but he didn't play nearly, like, I don't know how many games he played for the Warriors, but it wasn't a lot. because of injuries and other things. And then when he did play, he wasn't effective, and just a complete draft bust, maybe already up there in all the draft busts that we can talk about. Second overall pick that didn't do a single thing. And he's going to the Pistons, and the Warriors get Gary Payton back, who was there last year, and he's back there as well. And so I just wanted to mention that because it feeds into another discussion of that we've had before of big time draft, how you evaluate talent, and James Wiseman has been a complete and utter bust. So
Yeah, I'm not going to add a whole lot more just because I'm not. You guys are more like the experts in basketball, so especially when it comes to the trades. But first off, I want to say I'm pretty sure, Dustin, I heard you say something about Chewbacca in there.
Serge Ibaka.
Okay.
Serge Ibaka.
I was like, Chewbacca's playing now. So want to make sure that was cleared up for me on my end. Other than that, one of the bigger news things that I've seen is, and I know you guys mentioned a little bit already, was Kevin Durant being traded to the Suns. And something I'd seen that he said was, I can see myself finishing my career here. He's like, however, I said that with Brooklyn too. So I'm pretty
He
sure
said that with OKC, and he said that everywhere.
And with Golden State too, yeah.
So, so I saw that, and then I didn't see until earlier that Russell, you guys have said Russell Westbrook to the Jazz, but he's not going to stay there. You said
No, he's getting a
Okay.
buyout.
No, it's his last year of the contract, and it's very interesting. Westbrook signed what was the largest contract in NBA history in 2017 for a 5-year deal, and each of those 5 years he's played for a different team.
Okay.
Thunder, Rockets, Wizards, Lakers, and now the Jazz or whoever team he's going to play with. But yeah, he's going to negotiate a buyout, and yeah, won't play for them.
Okay. Other than that, there's not much else for me to add. Those are the main things that I'd seen, and I don't really know a lot of the names that I'm looking at. So I will leave you guys as the experts there.
Yeah, just to guess a quick recap is as I said, it's the Suns and other teams are just trying to do everything to get to the finals, and there are teams like the Warriors can tell you how difficult it is to win a championship. There's only one championship to go around each year, and you have to be the best team that you can possibly be between December and June. For 6 months straight, you have to be the best team in the NBA. It's extremely difficult to win a championship, and to get through the last of the season and through all the playoffs. And so teams will do anything they can to get there, any edge they feel like they can get.
Yeah. Okay, in our last 6.5 minutes here, we're going to talk about NFL coaching carousel, and just really quick thoughts from each of us on if this is a good decision. And just going to start alphabetically. So the Arizona Cardinals hired Jonathan Gannon. He was the defensive coordinator for the Eagles as their head coach. The Cardinals certainly needed defensive help, but I found it interesting because the biggest part of their entire future is getting Kyler Murray to play up to his potential. So whoever Jonathan Gannon hires as their offensive coordinator is going to be his biggest move, I think. But any thoughts about Jonathan Gannon and the Cardinals?
My first thought is I think that's a really good decision. I think he's going to do really well for them. Of course, I've been wrong before, but I think I think that's the right decision.
Yeah, my perspective on that is similar to you said, Scott, is they have so much talent on the offense, and it's being wasted. They need to fix the offense. That's got to be the priority.
I agree. Carolina Panthers is the next in alphabetical order. They hire Frank Reich, who was fired as Indianapolis Colts head coach earlier this same season. Obviously, the Panthers have Frank Reich did a lot of he had 5 quarterbacks in 5 years for the Colts. And now he comes into a situation where he has no quarterbacks. Sam Darnold, Sam Darnold, Matt Corral, and PJ Walker are going to be his three quarterbacks that he has to choose from. And so it's going to be a little strange, I think, for him to come into that and see what's gonna happen there. There was a big idea that I'm blanking on his name. Who was the Panthers interim head coach after Matt Rule was fired? Who was that? Can you remember?
I don't remember his name either.
He was a head coach in the league, but let me look it up real quick. Everyone out there listening to us is like saying that's this guy. Steve Wilkes is his name, and he was a head coach, and he did a really good job of getting the Panthers back into contention, albeit in a really bad NFC South. But I thought that Steve Wilkes should have been hired. Obviously, they wanted to go in a way to build that offense, and Frank Reich is a good offensive coach, so maybe that'll help. I just didn't like that decision to throw Steve Wilkes to the ground after a job that he did really well.
Yeah, I would agree with you. As far as the QB situation goes, my prediction is that they're gonna do some trading and move up in the draft and draft a quarterback, and we'll see if that happens or not. But that's my thought that what they'll try to do for as far as quarterback goes.
Yeah. Anything, Dustin?
Yep. If they do that, Cody, they'll probably, draft someone really highly scouted, someone really great. And we know how that's worked out in the past. So good luck, Carolina.
It worked with Cam Newton for a while. So, yeah. Next up is Denver Broncos hiring. They made a big splash move of hiring Sean Payton, who was an NFL analyst last year for Fox Sports. The year before that, he had spent 15 years as head coach of the New Orleans Saints, won a Super Bowl with New Orleans. And this is a really attractive job coming into Denver because they have a top 5 defense. If they can just get their offense on track, this could be a playoff team, and that starts with Russell Wilson. What can Sean Payton do with Russell Wilson in that offense? It's attractive here, and once again, the Broncos fans are excited about a season that they hope isn't going to go completely off the rails like it did this year. So,
yeah, I think this is the season that will really show if Russell Wilson has gone downhill or not. I think last year there's a lot of his play could be overshadowed by the coaching decisions. And so I think having him there, we're going to see, all right, what's going on with Russell Wilson for real now.
I think football, perhaps more than any other sport, is a culture sport. And Peyton built a culture in New Orleans that allowed for, a Super Bowl win and really good players that stuck around each year, like Drew Brees. And so I don't know how much of an improvement we'll see this season and if they're going to hold on for the long haul, years down the road to get back to that point, because I don't see immediate impact, maybe more than a couple more wins happening.
Mm-hmm. Houston Texans is the next one in alphabetical order. They hire the defensive coordinator for the San Francisco 49ers. What's his name?
DeMeco Ryans.
Thank you. 49ers, obviously the number 1 defense in the league last season. So DeMeco Ryans was a big name to come up, and also former player for the Texans. And so now he's their head coach. The Texans haven't been very loyal to their coaches. They've had DeMeco Ryans is the 4th coach in 4 years for Houston. I don't know if DeMeco Ryans worked out a different kind of contract there, but it's obviously a big rebuilding project in Houston, and so you can't be doing a whole lot of wins there in Houston, I don't think, this year, but he can hopefully, for his sake, get that defense back on track at least.
Yeah, I was gonna say I'm excited for that. I don't know how it's gonna work out yet. I think of Robert Salah, how he was 49ers last defensive coordinator. He's done well so far. So I expect good things, but I guess I'm a little bit more hesitant, I guess, towards that to see what happens more than I am with I guess the Eagles and Gannon. But yeah, I'm excited for that.
Yeah, with each team, especially one that are down, bottom of the league, it's you got to focus on a rebuild, and that's a 3, 4, 5+ year journey, and I don't see a 1, 2 year turnaround for these teams.
Yeah, we've got more, but we're going to be kicked off. So we'll talk to you next week.